Ray.com.
10, 9. Yeah, you're going to be the girl that says it.
Okay.
Hello, it's a beautiful week here in Chicago, Illinois. I just want to say hello to everybody out there on live. Really appreciate you guys being here. And we have a special guest today, and that's Heather Dart. How you doing, Heather?
I'm great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here. And, you and I were talking last week or over the last couple of weeks about really what the job roles are looking like right now, how unemployment has like really heightened over the last, few quarters, and how people are now doing interviews again and getting in front of these companies to try and get gainfully employed. How are things going out there in the world?
Well, I'd like to think they're going well. There's obviously still unemployment, which I don't think will ever change, but we've got a lot of people. There are people who are hiring and who are being hired. And, there's a myth that no one's hiring because they are. And it's exciting to watch people go through the process of not having a career or vocation and moving to having one. So I think it's going great.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're hiring 25 people in the first quarter, just to give you an
Wow.
idea. And
That's
last year, I think we hired a total of 30 people throughout the year.
great.
And 2019 was terrible for us. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we went through a freight recession, and we had to
Mm,
let some good people go. And,
yes.
we built up. And then also we got hit with a double whammy. We got hit with the whole COVID thing.
Yes.
Luckily, we were already preparing for a financial calamity. And, what happened, what it showed up as is we were prepared for COVID. And with the PPP that came through, that really
Hmm.
helped out a lot. Now, new stimulus package is coming in. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot more companies that are hiring. And so, I want to just really find out from you is how has COVID really impacted the application and requirement process for you and your company? And also, what company are you with?
I am with Challenger Gray and Christmas, who's been around they've been the original outplacement company for over 50 years. So they a long time ago wanted to support people in how to do an effective job search. And that's really what we're here to provide for people. We don't recruit for them, but we teach them and train them how to market themselves to find something. So to answer your question about how did COVID impact it, you know, there's certain industries that thrived in a lockdown area, logistics being one of them, where, you were thrust into things being delivered and more things transporting back and forth. But, there's certain industries that, surged, and other ones that, like the hospitality and food and beverage, which shrank. But people's transferable skills can go to either, any category. What we've found is the ability to network and do the standard things to find a job are still available virtually than just in person. And that companies, if the pivot isn't the word of 2020, they had to learn how to hire people virtually. So that's a whole other ballpark of how to train people and like that. So
Well, thank you for that. That really gives us a good, outlook on what's going on. And you're so right about the training aspect, all right? Here at Becker Logistics, we really have pushed forward, a whole training regimen from onboarding to
mm-hmm,
continuing education
mm-hmm,
to outward mindsets, making sure that our people understand, how to deal with the things that are impacting our daily lives.
mm-hmm.
One thing that I want to know is like, what should people be doing right now if they're not gainfully employed?
There's absolutely pay attention to what's on your social media, and in particular, take a moment every day to spend time on LinkedIn. LinkedIn as a professional driven site. This is about your career and not just yours, but about other people. I said, like, every day you could tap somebody and say, let me acknowledge you for this skill, or let me recommend you for this. And what you find in turn is people often reciprocate and do the same for you. So if I happen to see you have 500 connections, but only 3 people say you do a good job, I might not be inclined to work with you. But you can add things to your LinkedIn now as a platform. You can add a sound, a podcast, or more documents or more features to who you are. It's such a much more broader picture of who you're like to work with, so that future employers can see, who are you? What are you going to be like at the office or in the company?
Yeah, I like the steps that you put into place about how to get employed. I mean, a really quick, easy step too is on your LinkedIn page, right underneath your name. There's a
Mm-hmm.
spot for a speaker. You can actually record your name and or your phone number or your email. So
Yes.
really quick on your LinkedIn, go there on your phone right now, look for that little speaker, click on that, and I think it's about 5 to 7 seconds. No, I think it's 10 seconds that you have that you can put, hi, this is Jim Becker, third party logistics leader. And that's it. Or you can put your phone number like, hey, looking for employment. I'm a great, talented person.
Yes.
Something like that. That's just kind of like your calling card. With that, those are kind of the steps of getting employed. What are the challenges that you're seeing right now that people have?
Networking. I think people have um, one's capacity to connect with other people, and how people tend to think that networking only occurs through people that you are at work with or used to work with, when networking is anybody, whether it's your mail deliverer, or where you get your hair cut, for some of us who get our hair cut, and or there's so many people that or that you interact with regularly. It's not about them having a job for you. It's about who they can introduce you to. Statistically, 80% of new positions come from somebody you're initially connected to, as opposed to submitting your resume straight through some, job board or company site. So, one of my favorite stories is a client of mine, her daughter's college roommate's mother had a job for her. And you don't think, oh, I'll network, let me go think about my daughter. But she knows her daughter, and her daughter knows people, and her, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But networking virtually is, again, people have had to redesign how they do it. But just because you don't physically go see people doesn't mean you don't have access to connecting with people. And so recalibrating, in particular during COVID, and networking is one of the strongest things you can do, and doing it very effectively, being very articulate about what you want, not about what you've done, but what is it you're looking for, so that I know how I can help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so crucial. And you're right on it also, Heather. I mean, to be authentic, you need to really just show yourself. A lot of people like they're guarded. They don't want to really show themselves. They have something to hide, or they feel like that, if they see this is kind of a knockdown on me. I lost. Listen, be your true authentic self. That's what I've found in a lot of situations. And I too still do interviews with people. I mean, I had someone is talking about networking. I
Mm.
had someone that used to be an employee at Becker Logistics call me up out of the blue and said, hey, can we talk? I said, no problem. I have an opening at 4 o'clock. I'm working from my home yesterday
Mhm.
as well. And I said, come on over at 4 o'clock. Next thing you know, I invited my HR director, come on over. And we interviewed this person. And if that person didn't have that network already established, he can't
Yes,
really get right to that decision, the two decision makers that really make up that decision.
correct.
You know, the other question I had for you, Heather, is on the interviewer side. right?
Mhm.
What would someone really need to know, or the process on that? How does one actually do an interview process for other businesses out there that may be listening?
Well, obviously, sometimes I say it's a bit like dating. Everything can look great on paper, but your actual interactions are going to tell you more about what are these people like to work with, how compatible are we? Um, and uh, maybe this doesn't answer the question, but I hope so, is that I think with the virtual world, we've given, because we were sort of thrust into this, like everybody's suddenly at their home and the dogs are going by and, doorbells are going off, and there was not much you could do about that because we were all in that same situation. So I think interviewers and companies have sort of eased back on having it have to be perfect or a particular way. And I would say been a lot more forgiveness this year for certain things. Like if your lighting's not perfect, but now we're kind of coming around a different, bend in the racetrack, if you will. Like, okay, I expect you to have you should know a couple video platforms. You could figure out your lighting, and you understand to actually wear pants under your, get dressed up no matter what. So, but does that answer your question?
It does. It does. The one thing that I really look forward to is asking certain questions like, what was the last book that you read?
Mm.
Right? It gives me an idea, and in the first 5 seconds tells me, have they read a book? This is coming from someone that reads 1 to 2 books a month, right?
Yes,
And I gain so much from that. That
yes.
that gain really helps me get to that next level, right? That if I get one thing from a book, it really just catapults me. Right now, I'm working on David Brooks' Second Mountain, and it
Mm,
really just talks about the first mountain's all about ego, and the second mountain is more about purpose and truly
mm,
finding your true purpose in life,
mm.
right?
Great.
So, and
Yes.
when people struggle and they're like, "Yeah, high school," I'm like, "Okay, great, thanks." I'm looking for someone that really wants to do well by themselves and continue to grow.
Yes.
So I've got some questions for you on the best advice, your tips to those that are looking for a job. What are
Hmm.
Heather Dart's best tips looking for a job?
That you have to be interested in growth. Years ago, we talked about soft skills versus hard skills. The way technology is, and sort of nanotechnology and the theory of change, where everything is constantly changing, it's less about your actual competency, like whether you can drive a forklift or do this program, because things are becoming more obsolete at a faster pace. So it's about more your capacity to adapt and collaborate. Frankly, there's more people on the planet, and you're going to work with people not necessarily physically where you are, but you could be global. So you need to bring in and be able to incorporate all of that to produce a result. And how do you incorporate different people's styles of working and empower people around you? So those softer skills carry far more of a weight about what value you're going to bring to a company at the end of the day. And
Mhm.
then nothing will beat authenticity. And it starts with how you do your resume. If you're lying on your resume, you're going to lie in front of people, and you should be prepared to lie at your job. And if that's how you want to live your life, you can do that. I would never recommend that, because nobody wins with that. So knowing who you are, even if it's not as articulate as I might say, is like, what kind of a problem solver are you? Do you know yourself? How do you know yourself as a problem solver? Are you resourceful? Are you quick? Are you, what kind of a leader are you? And maybe you're not. Maybe you're not interested in that. What are you like to work with? Knowing that about yourself has a different capacity. And also when you talk about what happened at your last jobs, I said, you wouldn't want to come to a date. And they say, well, why do you want to meet with me? And I'd say, well, the last one dumped me, so I'm going to meet with you. You know, I want to know why you're here with us.
Oh,
Why, you know? So
yeah.
one thing is keep it light. Remember,
Yeah.
yeah, don't get worried about some other things, but you're going to be okay. So
I
those are,
love it. So I got out of that soft skills. I got
yes,
out of that having a story also
yes,
about where, when you did work, but make it positive. Have these stories like a situation from your last job. I
yes,
always ask this one, give me a situation of your last job where it just went haywire. Everything fell apart. What did you do and what did you learn from it? Like that's the
yes,
one I always ask. Have that prepared because I think everybody's asking that nowadays. And
100%. Sorry.
I'm trying to get to know that person, you
Yes,
know, right? And then you said authenticity, right? So be authentic. Far too often I see people walk in and they sit down and they're being somebody else that they're not. And I can tell, like right away, all of us on a interviewer side can tell that this interviewee is like, no, just be yourself. And I
yes,
call them presence, like, hey, relax, take it easy right now.
yeah,
So these are all great. I'm glad we're
yeah.
having this
I
call.
tell I tell people no one wants another dog and pony show. We're not interested in that. You know, I really want to know, like, if the building burns down, what am I gonna turn to you for? How are you gonna be a solution to this situation?
Right.
And it doesn't mean you haven't set a few fires. We all have. So
Yeah.
what about it? What did you grow from that? How did you?
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that brings me to the next question for you, Heather, is what other resources are available for someone to improve their chances on landing a job?
Well, there's a understanding algorithms and how data driven in, data is the new gold, if you will. So your capacity to understand how you articulate things online, on your LinkedIn account, or understanding that every time you put it out there, it gets discovered. And how you interact with people about what you're looking for and how you can forward their goals in life, whether it's career, family, or whatever. How you interact is one, but as sources, you know, ironically, one of the things I say about looking for jobs, Google. I mean, it sounds so silly, but Google captures so many other job boards. But there's also, I happen to like this site called The Muse. They have lots of decent articles. I mean, you can find, if you want to find about everybody should do a one-page resume, you'll find evidence to back that up. And if you want to find it doesn't matter how many pages it is, you'll find that. Me personally, um, study what's happening in interviewing and study it from a source that you find is reliable and consistent. There's also something, the Goodwill Foundation has a free website for all kinds of courses, everything from Microsoft courses to how to use an Android phone or how to use Skype, since not as many
Yeah.
people use that. So,
Yeah, you bring up a good point there on understanding these tools, Excel, Microsoft, Skype, Zoom. I find that some people kind of use it because they're forced to use it. And then some people really dig in and get into it.
yes.
And that's where you start on unraveling cognitive overload or cognitive dissonance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no,
Yes.
I'm not going to do that. That's you know what? I'm over 50. I'm not going to go ahead and get into that Zoom thing. That's cognitive dissonance for you, or cognitive overload where you're trying to learn Skype, Zoom, and all these other things all at the same time instead of, chunking it and learning one at a time and then putting it on your
Yes.
resume. Because you're so right.
Yes.
When it's on the resume, I'm asking questions about that. And I'm
That's right.
checking for your integrity and your authenticity and your well-roundedness. If you really know it from a level of like window shopping, or really are you a master at it where you're building macros inside your own Excel table with
Yeah.
VLOOKUPs and, you know,
Yes.
it's like, right? So I'm trying to really find out, who are we really hiring?
Yes.
What do you have to say about all of that? What's showing up for you?
Well, I think that one is it doesn't matter where you start, just start and be open to growing, because in a company, as things change, you know that it's so fluid. What you were doing 5 years ago isn't what you're doing now. What you were doing when you originally started in logistics, not the same now. And you've had to learn and grow with new technology. The minute you learn something now, it's practically going to change. You could master, VLOOKUPs, and Excel is going to change something about that in the next 3 years. Who knows?
Right.
LinkedIn, I think eventually is going to take over for resumes. So you can resist LinkedIn, or you can understand that this is a platform that's designed to forward what you are up to and how you're going to earn your living so you can live the way you want to live.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you more. Like LinkedIn is a great platform. I mean, all the platforms that we're broadcasting on live right now are great platforms, but
Yeah.
LinkedIn by far, like for the business world, that's why, it's been part of our network promise of putting content out there to really
Hmm.
help people and inform people what's going on. Just like in today's meeting with you and just having a one-on-one, Heather, you are so knowledgeable and so deep with your knowledge. I really appreciate you being on here today and
You're
just having
welcome.
a conversation about how people can get hired, and hopefully maybe someone receives some good tips here today. So thank you so
Hopefully.
much for your presence.
It's my privilege. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Really did appreciate it. This is Jim Becker signing off. Our special guest, Heather Dart. Thank you, Heather. And
Thank
how can
you.
people reach out to you again? Can you just throw that out there?
Well, you can always find me on LinkedIn if you'd like to do that, or you can go to challengergray.com and find out whether your company wants to hire us, or ask any questions there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heather. Have a great week.
You're welcome.
Thank
Bye.
you. All right.